Welcome to the Iron Mantis Chronicles, a sanctuary for warriors, thinkers, and seekers. Here, we dive into the art of mastery, the philosophy of movement, and the stories that shape us. In this episode, Sifu Jeff Hughes talks about the dedication required to become an instructor and a Sifu.
So, first of all, when I was moving to Austin, Texas, Sifu Fogg and actually Henry Chung, Sifu, they both said that I should start teaching. And I remember I was like, I don't know if I really want to do that. I don't know if I'm ready. I said, and I even said, they could, I just be like their coach or their Sihing. And they're like, no, you need to be their Sifu. And so I started, teaching the neighborhood kids. That's how it kind of started. And then I put some flyers up, and then that brought some people in. That was pretty much it, the flyers. And then slowly built it up there at the school, because I was going to college at the time. So that was my focus, not being, I was doing, teaching on the side and for fun and because I was told to. At the garage, I would say I probably averaged around maybe 8, and maybe like rarely would all of them be there at the same time. But so I taught pretty much. I think I started off teaching 2 days a week at nights, and I went up to 4, I think, and so once that got built up, I decided to sublease a space next door to me. There was like a little strip mall, and there was a little jazzercise center in there. So I decided to sublease there and started teaching some classes there. That's when I got into the first, brick and mortar, more of a professional location. It was kind of hard to rent space back then in the 90s, because a lot of those a lot of rental spaces they didn't really see martial arts as a professional business. So I kind of had to really talk these guys into letting me rent a space, and it was next to a Mexican restaurant, and there were some other stores, and there's like a little strip mall. And actually, the school's still running there to this day, where Coach Bart Butler's running the Void MMA school there now, as an Iron Man affiliate. So that school's still running. But anyway, to get into that place, it wasn't that easy. And I remember selling my motorcycle to pay for the first and last month rent, and then. My mindset was I just wanted a cool place to train, be able to put all my stuff up, decorate it as a Kung Fu school and have all the stuff. And I didn't know anything about business. And I learned really quick, once all the bills started coming in, because what I thought it was about double what the price of what I thought it was going to be. But after about a year struggling through that, I got enough students to where it was starting to pay for itself. But I was still teaching strictly 7-star praying mantis mainly. Most of that, I would say the first 5 years I was in college and whatnot, and then once I started teaching, I went full time. So that's why it was a struggle too, because I wasn't doing. I was like all in, trying to when I wasn't teaching, I was trying to promote and whatnot. So yeah, and it wasn't until I was in that space in South Austin that there on South First Street that I finally decided to that I need to really learn business, and so I could keep teaching and grow the school and teach more people. So the business part is what not only helped me grow the school and actually move down a couple spaces, get a bigger space, but it actually helped me become a better teacher. Because if I backtrack a little bit, when I first started teaching, I would pretty much just have people, go through the classes with me. Like they were just kind of like, I was going through the training like I always did with FOG, and they were kind of following me. And I remember after a couple of years of that, I remember one of the students one time was like, "Seafood, you're killing us, we're trying to keep up with you." So then I started realizing that I need to do my training separate, and when I'm teaching, just mainly focus on the students. So that was my first big lesson of being a teacher, going from a student to a teacher. And then I say several years after that, I remember I was testing students because I had to kind of start putting together my own way of testing, and because there was no belts in the Kung Fu training that I had. So there was no there was levels, but there wasn't like a way to move students up in a specific way, like a belt program. So I had to start working on that idea. But what came with that is requirements for their tests. And I realized this is the second big lesson is I realized that the way I learned wasn't really working for them. They were still lacking, and I felt like they should be better than they were for the time they had been training. So that's when I realized that I had to become a better teacher and learn better teaching methods. And so that, fast forward a little bit back to what I was saying when I getting into more of the business, that's, the business didn't just help with finance. It helped with me, organizing the school and learning how to better run classes and better teach students. I started getting around other professionals that were, good at that. And so I got a lot of tips, and that just went on for several years. They were professional martial artists that were running professional schools. They were good martial artists that were running professional schools, and some had multiple schools. Really, my good friend Master Pablo Zamora, he was the one who really took me under his wing, helped me with the business, but also how to run classes. And he really shifted my paradigm. It was a big mental block that I had for a long time, because I thought it only could be done one way. You can only teach one way. And especially coming from a school where, classes were 3 hours long and everyone worked together, and then going into a format of teaching hour classes and different levels and stuff. It was a big learning curve. I see, for the longest time, I thought business was bad. It would corrupt things and corrupt the system. And I didn't. I guess I was brainwashing, a little bit. But once I understood and I saw how much psychology was behind business, and just the people I was around, they were just well-balanced human beings. They, good martial artists, good business, helping a lot of people, and good family members and whatnot. So that inspired me. So, that was a big shift that really helped me. And plus, it also allowed me to start training under more teachers, not only in business, but through martial arts as well, because you start making more money, you have more income, and you want to invest more into the business, not only just, making the school look better and nicer, but invest in myself and my training, so that could trickle on down to the students. Because once I moved to Austin, I think it was 97, there wasn't a whole lot of, gung fu there and other people for me to train with. At least I hadn't found them. But I did find a yoga teacher, Bakir Algan. He's under Iyengar. He's a student of Iyengar. And so I started training with him, and actually I trained with him for 20 years until he passed away. Went through his instructor training and whatnot. So that was, it was nice being able to train under someone else who had a pretty serious mindset about training. And so that was able to start incorporating some more of that mindset into my school, not only better stretching, but, different type of body weight strength training. And, his mindset and the way he looked at things was, interesting, let's say. So he could break things down and make things simpler where it needed to be. And he also worked a lot with people's mind, whatever, they were working on or struggling with, he could help them there too. Well, Bakir had a way of working with people. he would listen to people. He would really, and he could watch and see the way their body was moving and see what they needed. So he would help them. It wasn't like, he just running a class and everybody follows. He was very much, paying attention to each individual, the things they said, the things they were doing, and address those issues so they could actually, move forward in life, not just physically, but mentally as well. So yeah, that watching him definitely affected the way that I became as a teacher, So, because a lot of times when people don't want to address an issue that's coming up in the training, because a lot of times it's emotional, and the next thing you know, they'll want to blame other people. Like you said, they either try to, avoid the situation, not coming to class, so they don't want to deal with what's come up. Because we say it's like you're slaying dragons as you're training. When you first start training, you come up against a hurdle and you overcome it. But the hurdles get tougher as you keep going. And after a while, it's not uncommon for people to just want to either blame the teacher or the training for, their shortcomings or the challenges that they're not able to deal with. So that's why in the traditions, those who do move to higher levels in yoga and Kung Fu, most of them have, gone through a lot more than just physical training. They're trying to, better themselves. Pablo Zamora, Sifu Master Zamora, he then introduced me and recommended that I train with John Hackleman. He said, you guys have a similar mindset. I think it would be good for you. And so that was another teacher that I started training with in Hawaiian Kempo. And Hackleman at the time, his students, Chuck Liddell, Glover, Court McGee. Actually, Court and I both got our black belt at the same time. So I started working with them and doing the camps out there. And that was another level of seeing a professional teacher run, a family, dojo, a family run karate school, but was also creating professional fighters. So that was a big influence on me, not only my martial arts, but becoming a better teacher. I just, every time I work with someone at a high level, and I've been so fortunate to work with so many, you see their teaching methods and you take little pieces of it to make yourself a better teacher. And it was after working with John Hackleman for a while and starting that program and working my way up to my black belt with him, a lot of the techniques I was learning as far as the striking, I was picking up pretty quick, but I realized that the Brazilian jiu-jitsu aspect of it, I wasn't picking up so quick. So that's when in Austin I decided to start training with William Vondre. And so when I was with Hackleman, of course, the BJJ I was being exposed to mainly was from Luigi Mondelli, who runs CORE, and he's part of American Top Team. And we became close friends. And he was out of Danbury, Connecticut. So he was kind of, far away as far as like keeping track with him and training with him. So I decided to get find a school where I could train Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu just enough to help my Hawaiian Kempo. That's all. I just wanted enough to better understand that system. And, then that was another professor. I was around a highly skilled martial artist, and Vondre was already putting out books on leg locks. He was way ahead of his time, decades ahead of his time on that. And so, actually when I got my blue belt and my purple belt with him, Carlos Machado was actually there in attendance for both those belts that I got. So that was another special times. And just being around, that level of martial artists that are just, like say, professional and have worked with so many people and watching their teaching methods. You as a teacher, you're picking up on that. You're not just trying to pick up, like I wasn't always just trying to pick up the techniques. I was also trying to pick up the techniques of how these teachers taught and how they talked to people and how they were successful creating really good martial artist. Because I know a lot of good martial artists, but doesn't mean they're going to be a good teacher. Because ever since I was a kid, I've always loved martial arts, and that hasn't changed. Just many other styles I would like to train. There's a lot of Okinawan styles that I really like. So yes, even though I was already running a school, I was, the Sifu of a school and running a place. It was very successful. I put a white belt on with John Hackelman, started training with him, and then after that, I put a white belt on for Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu in the same city I was teaching out of, and and then from there, I was able to start training again with Luigi Mondelli and Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and also, exposed to the MMA scene there as well. So, Luigi's always been a very, amazing human being, not only a professional martial artist, but just a great human being and a very skilled Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu professor. So is all these teachers that I've been around that, made me a better teacher, not only a better martial artist, because it's one thing to become a better martial artist, and it's another thing to try to develop your craft as a teacher, not just as a martial artist. I also got into the sports performance training to better help me, not only get myself stronger, but also to help my fitness program. And so I ended up training with senior coach Lance Hooten in Austin, Texas. So I would go into the gym a lot of times to lift weights, but it wasn't that on a regular basis. I would do it if I was getting ready for a competition or something like that. So I met Lance Hooten, and he was interested in learning martial arts as well. So we became friends, and then we just, started to teach each other. So I started learning, the sports performance training there at the gym. It was just one-on-one, then later in small groups. And then I later started working with his professional athletes. And that was a huge educational process as well. He was a coach at University of Texas, and then he went out on his own. And he worked out at Hyde Park Gym for many years, and also the local tracks around town, like at high schools and whatnot. And now he has a private location set up where he does all his teachings. And so being around that level of professionalism and how to build athletes up with the focus being power and speed training. So from there, I ended up being a USAW, beginner coach, and later I moved up to a USAW advanced coach in Olympic lifting and sports performance training. And all of this trickled down into my curriculum as well. It was only after that I'm training something for a long time for myself, and I like it and I see the benefits, it would slowly become part of my curriculum. So all these teachers I worked with, they were so good, and the program is so amazing. And after me doing it several years, it would just naturally start to permeate into my school, and then it naturally, organically became part of my curriculum at the school. Because I remember I was training Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu for myself and to help with the Hawaiian Kempo program. But it wasn't until I had trained BJJ in another school and doing privates weekly, only after a couple years of doing that myself. And also, I started to fall in love with the art of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, not just the self-defense aspects of it, right? And so I started loving it that much. And so I was like, okay, then I started to implement more of the DE, BJJ program into the school. But as far as being a teacher, it's like, of course, learning the skills, but then also not only being a good martial artist, but being, able to, take someone through how to do a technique, how to do, whether it's a jab cross hook, or how to do an arm bar from the guard or a takedown. But it's one thing to be able to do it, and it's another thing to be able to learn how to teach it step by step. It's just like a lot of students will learn, let's say, 100 techniques, but maybe they really hold on to 15 of them for themselves. And those are the ones they focus on. So if you ask them about the other, 85, they may not even be able to really do them that well or show them. But if you become a teacher, you got to get good at all of them, at least good enough at all the techniques to really show them, and then let the students decide which one of those techniques they want to, take on for themselves. And of course, you get building up patience as a student will really help as you become a teacher. And you got to be able to help the person, make the right decisions and not be too emotional about things. It's just things that's going to also help them in their daily life. Because the ego, some ego's good, but it could also be your greatest enemy. So when you start thinking you know better, it's a fine line, because it's like you kind of you might cross that line a couple times and then you kind of pull back. You're like, okay, I just realized I shouldn't have said that. I shouldn't be acting that way. But usually the community around you will help put you in check as you're coming up as a martial artist. So usually by the time you're a teacher, as long as your teacher has taught you these things. Because if your teacher is, an egomaniac, he's going to create other egomaniacs, so it's good to have someone who's, let's say, living the martial way, trying to stay balanced in life. I feel like, that's been my success. That's why I've done as well as I have, is because it's not just me. I tell people it's my network, and my network has a standard, and it keeps me at that standard. And it's like keeping myself accountable in some ways. So the people that I work with, they have, standards, and like who they teach, and whatnot. So yes, I think being accountable and having a strong network will really help you as a teacher, but also it helps all the students, because I've always said, if I ever get to a point where I have a student who's doing really well, whether it's competition or whatever, and I feel I need some other answers or some other help, I have that in my network. I would say that, recapping on the fact that, I never planned on being a teacher, nothing that I ever wanted, but because my teachers highly recommended, kind of like telling me to do it, I took on that. And then in that process of becoming a teacher, it made me a better martial artist. It started making me see things different, understand things. So I think that the whole journey has been just like another part of my journey. We say once you get past your black belt, so when you're asking, about what do you do after a black belt, sometimes the teaching is the path to help you. Because if you're not teaching and you're just an athlete, eventually you're going to become an ex-athlete, and you may not be doing much with it. So I would say for anyone has an opportunity down the line to teach, I think it would be it's a useful tool. If you want to keep training martial arts, you got to find other ways. You definitely got to keep that beginner's mind, because you don't want to get frustrated. As long as you keep loving the art and loving martial arts, it'll just keep pushing you through all the ages and get you through the injuries, because you do it because you love it. And that's something I say all the time. We do it because we love it.
Thank you for listening. Remember to share, like and subscribe. Until next time.